Today's guest is one of my oldest friends in the fire service, Josh McGill. Josh and I came up together in the volunteer firehouse world in Maryland, where we spent our younger years chasing calls, getting into trouble, and learning a lot of lessons the hard way. He's a 17-year fire service veteran who started as a volunteer in high school, studied fire protection engineering at the University of Maryland, and eventually got hired in Montgomery County. This conversation goes way beyond a career timeline. We talk about the firehouse culture that shaped us, the identity that comes with being a firefighter, and what it's like to walk away from something you once thought would define your whole life. We also get into the loss of Josh and Ashley's first daughter, Lenny, and how that kind of grief changed the way that he sees fear, time, family, and purpose. Out of that pain came a promise to make Lenny proud. And in many ways, that promise helped shape the business he's building now through Volca and the Volca training system. This episode is funny in some moments, heavy in others, and honest all the way through. I think you're really going to connect with Josh, so let's get started.
Welcome to the Keep the Promise podcast, where we help build resilient and well-rounded firefighters.
You want to know when I learned how to, and this is so embarrassing to say, I learned how to tie it by myself before my interview with Montgomery County. Because
you didn't have to tie it. You had to tie in high school.
But here's the thing.
Did you clip-ons? Were you a clip-on guy?
Fuck no, I wasn't. But my dad can tie phenomenal ties with like the little dimple and everything. Like they just look awesome. So what I would do at the beginning of every school year is I would like figure out which ones I wanted, and he would tie all of them. And after school every day at John Carroll, I would just like slip it off my neck, hang it up like that. And
cheater, man. You're a cheater.
He was out of town when the Montgomery County interview was happening, and I'm like, fuck. Dude. And I figured it out, and I still remember.
That's probably why you didn't get the job.
What's new? What's good? How's Ashley?
She's good. She's very, very pregnant. So it's good we're doing this now, because if we waited a week, probably would not be able to do this. She's great. She's probably crying. We just put her to bed. She doesn't like that, but she's good, man. She's so much fun. She's learning. She's at the point where she's starting to just like pick up all of the words.
Oh boy.
But she can't quite say them all. So truck is truck. And we have a lot of trucks that pass by the house. So she hears them now too, and she knows it's a truck. So she'll hear a truck go by, she'll say frack.
Good. Can't wait till she starts cursing.
She's almost there. She's saying fruck.
Going to my John Carroll reunion this weekend.
What's that? Your 15th, 20th. Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
Dude.
That's right. Yeah, because my 15th would have been like 2 years ago. So yeah, that makes sense.
Crazy.
And you're actually going?
Yeah, dude. Curious to see who I'm going to see, and I think so. The event is scheduled for like 4 hours, and I'm trying to figure out what is going to happen for 4 fucking hours on a Saturday afternoon. But
reminisce about what you guys were doing 20 years ago, obviously.
Dude, I don't remember what I was doing yesterday. I think they're going to give us like a tour of the school, which, you know, they took all that money, and I drove past a while back, and they redid fields and shit. Everything's like AstroTurf. There's
I haven't driven by in a while.
Security guards and cameras, and it's kind of wild. So maybe they're going to be like, oh, here, you should contribute with the alumni contribution.
Well, you know they're going to do that.
No, 100%. Oh,
yeah, I should bring. That's the whole point.
I should bring Monopoly money and just give him that. Did you ever have a Miss Gatesy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she passed away. What was it? Like last year or something?
Yeah.
She was good people.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't even know what teachers are still there. I mean, that's 20 years ago. That's like an entire career.
Oh, dude, I went down a deep dive into their Facebook page, and I found my sophomore year chemistry teacher. And I remember that because we all, like all my friends and I, just fell in love with chemistry because she was awesome. She got pregnant and went off on maternity leave. Junior year rolls around, and everybody's in the next chemistry class. It might have been like AP or some shit. And we had a teacher who had no idea, and that's when we all started hating chemistry.
Oh, no.
We're like, she doesn't know how to explain shit. This is awful. But apparently she's back from maternity leave after, all those years and still teaching.
I hope she's back from maternity leave by now.
I don't know, dude. I wouldn't go back to teaching. You need patience of a saint to be a school teacher.
Yeah, I'm out on that. That is a whole different calling.
All right, let's talk about high school. Who were you before you got into the fire service? Who was Josh?
Dude, I don't even remember. That was long ago. I was just a kid. I mean, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life. Junior year of high school was when I started working. I got a job as a lifeguard, and
at the Arena Club, right?
That's right.
Oh my
That's
God,
right, the Arena
everybody
Club.
had a job at the fucking Arena Club as a lifeguard.
That was the place to work, dude, and it was fun. That's actually how my connection to the fire service started. Was a guy there who had a brother at our volley house and told me to come check it out, and I did. And that's when we had the ping pong table there, and I walked in, all these guys were playing ping pong, and it just looked like a good time.
Wait, who was the brother? Who was the person that was connected to the firehouse?
It was Chad and Todd Sloshnagle.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I heard a story about Baltimore County a couple of years ago about like showing up to like a little shed fire or something, and the person telling the story goes like, "Yeah, the firefighter just like came like running around the corner screaming to fill the box." I'm like, sounds like a slosh move, and they looked at me like, "How did you know?" Like, yes, nothing's changed, Slosh. Keep it up, buddy.
Do you think he listens to your podcast?
I hope so. So he hears a shout out, and he's gonna send me some like half English, half Spanish text message telling me to go fuck myself like he normally does.
El fucko yourself.
The ping pong table too, dude. Did you ever get thrown on it or over it or under it while running
I'm
for a
sure.
car?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Those are some of my memories too. Like you come blasting out of those double doors for a call, and somebody just body checks you into the ping pong table.
Or going down that little incline there, somebody always ate shit.
The one time that I pushed on the panic bar and the door didn't open, and I think it was meeting night, so there were like 20 motherfuckers behind me, and I just got crushed.
You were too fast for the sensor release.
No, because remember it was mechanical. So I pushed on the bar on the
you mean out to the engine bay?
Yeah, out into the engine bay.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. And I pushed on this bar, dude, and I'll never forget that I looked down at my hands, and as people were crushing into me, like my wrists were getting bent back. We did some dumb shit. Anyway, we have digressed already.
Yeah.
So you joined the local volley house, and the ping pong table is what drew you into the fire service.
Among other things. I think your original question was about high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought about law enforcement actually, and I'm glad I did not go down that path. But no, it was actually. I was always in the science. I was always into the science classes and not so much the math, but more the science stuff. And my parents had always very much pushed getting a usable education in college. So I looked at engineering schools. That was kind of where my path would end up taking me. But one of the chiefs at the volley house, and I had no idea this existed at the time, told me about the fire protection engineering program at Maryland. And I joined about halfway through high school, so I was applying to colleges and all that. So I had looked into it, applied to it, ended up not actually getting into the engineering school at Maryland, but I got it. So I don't know if Maryland still does it this way or not, but at the time you had to apply to the school itself, like to University of Maryland itself. And then you would also have to apply to, if it was like a special school within the university, like the business school or the engineering school or the journalism school or whatever. That was like a separate step that you had to get accepted to that school. I made it into the school itself, but not into the engineering school. And I made it into the engineering school at Delaware, University of Delaware, for mechanical engineering. And it was literally like the day before I had to put my deposit down for the University of Delaware. And we got a letter in the mail that was like, hey, from the University of Maryland, that was like, hey, we've reconsidered your evaluation and decided to accept you into the engineering school and the fire protection engineering program. And I don't know if it had anything to do with this, but a couple months prior to that, I had gone to the University of Maryland it was like an open house, or I don't remember what the event was, but I ended up meeting the head of the fire protection engineering department, who was also a volunteer in PG County at the time, or not at the time, he was a life member in PG County. So he was connected to the fire service, and I got talking to him. And I don't know if this had anything to do with the reconsideration of my application or not, but I ended up getting in, and that's where I ended up going. Still wasn't sure if that's what I had wanted to do long term or not, because at the time the fire bug was getting me, and I was drawn towards maybe being a career fireman at that point. But I knew I at least wanted to get a degree, and at the time, I'm sure you remember, this was right after the recession, or actually kind of during the recession, and there was absolutely no fire departments hiring. And if they had been, I may not have finished my college education, but yeah, I mean, that was the time when, people were sitting on hiring lists for forever, and they just weren't, nobody was testing, nobody was doing anything. So I ended up finishing my degree, and towards the end of my degree, I was applying I applied to career fire departments. At that point, I knew I wanted to do it. Whether that was forever or not, I didn't know, but it was something that I knew I had to do, because if I didn't do it, I would look back my entire life and just wonder, So that was kind of what led me to the career fire service ultimately. And what was your original question about high school, right?
You can go back to high school, but you gave me a lot of stuff that we can look back on. And this is going to send you on a tangent. What exactly goes into fire protection engineering?
You mean what do we do?
Yeah, because I too went to an engineering school that had nothing to do with fire protection engineering. And I thought I knew what I was getting into, and I realized, oh, this is a lot more variety than I expected. So coming in as somebody who pretends to know what the fuck goes into fire protection engineering, can you explain to me what it is? Because I look at it, I was like, these guys sit behind the computer screen and make CAD drawings of sprinkler systems, and then they send BFP to go do work.
That's right. That is one avenue that a fire protection engineer could take, but there's a ton of different paths that it could take you down. That's one of them, like a designing systems, and very much in a classical engineering sense. There's code enforcement type stuff. There's all kinds of stuff, and now I'm blanking on all the other things that you can do with it. Obviously right now I work as a code consultant. So I do, a big architecture firm will come hire us to look at their life safety plans, to get it through, county inspection or city inspection or whatever, so they can get their permit. So that's another aspect of it. A lot of consulting jobs out there in the fire protection arena. Yeah. There's a ton. So basically it's like 70%, 60 or 70% of like a mechanical engineering degree. And then there's some specialized classes on top of that. And mechanical engineering, same thing. And there's so many different paths you can go down with any engineering degree. But yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
I'm going to say out loud what I've been thinking since I got in the fire service and I started interacting with you folks that went to Maryland. It always seemed like the fire science programs and the fire protection engineering programs were just like a holding tank for guys to have an excuse to go to Maryland.
That's right.
But be lives in PG.
Yeah.
How true? Well, how true is that?
That is fairly true. I did not live at a firehouse while I was there. If I did, I don't think I would have finished my degree, to be 100% honest with you. But yeah, that's true. My fire protection engineering class was about 50% guys from the fire service, and then 50% people who usually knew somebody in the fire protection world and found out about the program, and then a smaller portion of people who maybe were undecided engineering and was like, wow, this seems pretty cool, and it decided that was what they wanted to do.
It was always fascinating hearing you guys come back home from college and getting together around Thanksgiving or Christmas time or the summer and listening to the fucking PG guys tell these insane stories. And I just remember being like, I get to go to school at the beach, which is pretty awesome, but these guys were doing some wild shit. And I look back fondly on those memories because we didn't know what we didn't know, right? Like we were just young and dumb, and every day in the fire service was a great story, another fun thing to do. And these stories that I hope they still get told, just kind of like formed that identity for the fire service and what you want it to be, what you didn't want to be, how to act, how not to act. There were so many stories that I still remember that we had on those fucking shitty chairs out in that engine bay around the ping pong table.
Those chairs are probably still there.
Yeah, the office chairs that we used to take out front into the front ramp and just sit there and shoot the shit before phones, right? This is before smartphones. The iPhone was just coming out around that time, so nobody had a smartphone. People had fucking Nextels with a beep beep that we would get the pre-alert from dispatch if we knew somebody who was working at dispatch. And it was just phenomenal because we were all so present, and we were presently paying attention to everything that was going on at the firehouse with our people. What do you remember the most about those early years at the firehouse, both in PG and back home? And kind of like those stories that we just talked about. What are some of those things that people may not understand unless they have lived them?
Oh, man. It was really about the guys and the calls that you were going on. I was never at a slow firehouse. We were always going on calls and always getting into stuff. But I mean, it was the guys and the calls and the shenanigans, I think, was probably the three biggest things. It's hard to explain to people who aren't in the fire service. But yeah, the guys, the calls, and the shenanigans, for sure.
And sometimes we probably shouldn't explain them because there's no way that you can do it without horrifying them when you're like, yeah, it's like 4 or 5 18-year-olds in the back of $1 million fire truck, and they're about to go to a house fire or to cut somebody out of a mangled car or something, because they would just be like, what? And like now looking back on it, 20 years past, you're like, we were doing what at what age and getting away with it?
Yeah, it was a frat house with $15 million of fire equipment that we were in charge of.
There are some things that we probably can't even talk because, like, looking back on it, might be illegal, and they'll probably like get us canceled.
Statute of limitations is probably expired.
I'm not gonna try. There's like, dear God, so much fun. I used to live at that firehouse during the summer in between, like when I was in college. And you're right, shenanigans. That was a big part of our upbringing. And you and I got caught in a couple of them that landed us in hot water. From your end, getting in trouble must have taught you a couple things. What did it teach you about the culture of the fire service, loyalty to each other, and just growing up as a man and as a firefighter?
Yeah, I mean, the fire service shaped who I was. I mean, it still does. But I mean, you mentioned loyalty. Loyalty is kind of a funny word in the fire service because you can be loyal to a lot of different things. You can be loyal to the department. I mean, you can be loyal to a clique of people. There's a lot of different loyalties that lie in the fire service, and not all of them align all the time. And navigating that is definitely something that the fire service taught me how to do. And I mean, what was some of the other parts of your question that you had? It was like
that was a phenomenal answer. The alignment of those loyalties, culture, loyalty, and growing up. Real quick before we jump back in. Firefighters don't leave each other behind. We look out for our own. Right now, there's a firefighter out there, maybe a rookie, maybe a seasoned veteran, who needs this podcast. They need the lessons, the mindset, and the training tips. But they'll never get them unless you help them. Here's how you can help right now. On Apple Podcasts, tap the 5 stars, then scroll down and write just a few words about what the show has done for you. On Spotify, tap the 3 dots, select Rate Show, and drop your rating. It takes less than 60 seconds, it costs you nothing, and it helps one more firefighter get better, stronger, and more prepared. We look out for each other. This is one small way that you can pay it forward. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid. I was where I had any minute of free time. Whenever I could, I was at the firehouse. Probably up until I got hired, and then I was at a firehouse every third day. Then on my days off. But yeah, I mean, it formed who I am as a person, hands down.
Do you think those volunteer firehouses still have that ability to mold young men and women into something worthwhile? Have we lost it with technology, with the changes in the fire service, or do you think that's a timeless thing that can transcend all of us?
I do. I mean, I do think that the fire service can still mold young people, the way it molded us. And, if you had gone back to the 70s, I mean, it was different technology, but there was still young kids in the 70s in the firehouses getting molded. And, up 80s, 90s, we were the early 2000s. I mean, technology's different and kids are different, generations are different. But, what the fire service is at its core hasn't really changed. And I think, that aspect of it, they're going to be young people who latch onto that and get molded by it just like we did.
And I think by technology, I don't mean so much the equipment or the dispatch calls or, electric fire engines, like whoever the fuck might have them. I mean the shit in our pockets. And I say that because one of the most heartbreaking moments that I had all to myself was sitting at our big firehouse kitchen table. And this station was built to house like 12 plus people. So it's a big table, right? Like lots of company pride and whatnot. And I looked around and, the senior captain with 26 plus years on his phone, the rookie next to him on his phone, the guys on the ambo on their phones, the rest of the engine crew on their phones. I'm looking around. I was like, I'm surrounded by these guys. and I actually feel kind of alone because there's no presence.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a problem beyond just the fire service, though. I mean, like I still catch myself. We're having dinner as a family with my daughter in her high chair, and I still catch myself reaching for my phone sometimes, and I have to consciously make the decision to really try to be present. Especially when it involves our daughter. And I think that's greater than the fire. I mean, that's everywhere. And it is a shame because the firehouse kitchen table was, it's the place, right? I mean, and it still is. I don't think that's fully gone away at all. I mean, the firehouse kitchen table is still the firehouse kitchen table. But I think culturally everywhere, everybody is distracted and on their phone. And I think that's a problem beyond the fire service.
I had a senior guy that was, how do I put this? A little bit rough around the edges and a little hard to get along with. But in retrospect, one thing I really appreciate is that he was a fucking asshole when it came to having your phone out at the kitchen table. He would call out the young guy, the old, like the more senior firefighter, the lieutenant. It didn't matter. Like, he hated it and he made it known. And looking back on it, it was so worth it being present and, just watching the conversation ebb and flow and trying to figure out if you're going to be the butt of the next joke or if you're going to get piled on or if we're going to have a deep conversation or just fuck around. Let's go back to when you got hired in Montgomery County. It was pretty quickly after college, right?
Yeah, it was. So I applied while I was still in college, probably maybe a year before graduation. I didn't get hired for the first recruit class. I got hired for the second one after that. So that ended up putting me maybe 6 months, 8 months after graduation, I got hired.
Well, that's like two big wins, one after the other, right? You must have been high on life, finishing that 4-year degree and then boom, career of a lifetime. What did that mean to you on both accounts?
I mean, it meant everything. It was, like you said, it was two big milestones, graduating with my degree and making it to the career fire service is where I wanted to be. It meant everything to me. And
in terms of lessons learned from your time in Montgomery, what are a couple things that being a career firefighter gave you that you're actually going to carry forever in life?
I mean, I still end up waking up at like 4:30 in the morning.
Against your better judgment.
It gave me that. But I mean, it gave me all the things you think it would. I mean, discipline. It showed me what the career side of the fire service was like, good and bad. But it was what I wanted to do. And it gave me that sense of accomplishment that, I got hired. I made it through an academy. I'm off probation. I'm a career fireman doing career fireman things, and I can do this, and I did it. And that I still have a sense of pride when I look back and say, I did that.
Dude, maybe you went through the same thing that I did, because I caught myself a few times, even as the years went on. But we'd be going to a call or something, like I'm in the back of the engine, and at the time we had 3 at that particular company, three on the engine. So I was by myself, whatever, with my thoughts. And there were a few times I would be going somewhere and I would just be smiling ear to ear like, oh my God.
I'm getting paid for this
I am
now.
exactly what I was feeling. Like it was just so weird feeling now on the other side that we had looked at for so long as this like crazy profession on a pedestal. And you're like, I am here. This is fucking awesome. Like I have nothing else to worry about in life but figure out what we're going to do on this call and then figure out what we're going to do on the next one. And the next one until I get to go home. And then that means just get ready for coming back here on shift.
That's right.
That was such a fun time.
I still remember the first fire I went to and I was like, wow, I just got paid to go to that fire.
Right. Yeah, man. Good times. Was there anything about the job that just felt natural to you? And I think that's a biased question because a lot of us that came with quote unquote experience, like we just said, it was getting paid to do something that we had already done. But was there any point that you just looked at yourself and you said, yeah, this just clicks pretty easily. This isn't bad. I know it wasn't hazmat because you hated your time at that fucking company.
But the days not on an ambulance felt natural to me. That was the first time that I had been forced to ride an ambulance that much for that long. Fires still felt like going to fires. And it was, it clicked. That it was good. It was great.
Was there anything about the fire service in the career side that just felt like it got harder as the time went on?
Well, yeah, so I kind of had a little bit of bad luck with my early assignments there. I was assigned to companies that were very difficult for me to actually work at without having a hazmat. I got put out of rookie school. I got put at a hazmat support station, and then moved over to a hazmat station that I literally could not step foot in without a hazmat tech certification. So that was difficult because you don't have a home base. You don't, you're getting put all over the county to ride everybody else's EMS unit all the time, which, I mean, I knew going in EMS was going to be part of it. But the fact that, I didn't even have a station that I could work at. Like I don't even think I had met my captain for months after I got assigned to that station. So that was difficult. Eventually I did get that certification, and then I ended up leaving that firehouse anyway, going to a great firehouse with awesome dudes that felt like the fire service that I wanted to be in.
Weren't you also doing some of your engineering work on the side on your days off?
I was. So through the volunteer firehouse, or one of them, I got hooked up with a part-time job, fire protection engineering stuff, on an hourly basis on my days off. And I was probably 3 years into the fire service. I got that, which meant it was great because I didn't really have to work any overtime. It was a really good gig, and I actually really enjoyed what I was doing engineering wise too. And it fit perfectly because it was when I had time, I would do it, and then I would go to work, be a fireman. That was my life for a while. I mean, my wife was up in Boston getting her PA degree, so I had nothing else to do literally except ride fire trucks and work this part-time job, which is how we became so tight, because we were on the same shifts on different departments, and our days off were the same. So we hung out quite a bit during that time.
People still look at me weird when I explain that I would leave my career job and then go to a place where I got to do the same thing, but for free immediately after. And they're like, so you spend how many hours at a firehouse consecutively? I'm like, I don't know, maybe 48.
Who's counting?
But at the time, we were so young and dumb and had nothing but energy and just wanting to go to calls and go to fires and start shenanigans.
Yeah, that was it. That was my life for 4 or 5 years. We did that for a while.
Remember, dude, I'd be finished with whatever CrossFit class I had, and then we'd just go do meathead worworkouts at the firehouse gym. Right. Write all the workouts in fucking dry erase marker on
the mirror.
Piss off everybody
badasses.
else.
That's right. If it's not on the mirror, it doesn't count.
Man, I'm surprised we didn't get kicked out sooner, bro. And then what happened in 2019?
So 2019, so I was working my part-time job, and eventually that led to a full-time job offer for a position that was getting created at that job. And I had a super tough decision to make, and it wasn't a decision that was made lightly. It was probably weeks, month plus of agonizing about it. Because this new job came with obviously more money, more pay, better hours. And at that time, we talked about how much we were at the firehouse. I think there was probably an element of burnout there as well. And I have this quirky personality trait where I'm never satisfied with where I'm at ever. Professionally, I couldn't go from fire 2 to fire 3 fast enough. I couldn't get my engine driver done fast enough. And in this case it was, this job's more money. It's, better hours. It could lead to, a career where, it 10, 15 years down the road looks a lot different between these two jobs. And, it was, after a lot of soul searching, I decided to take the full-time job doing engineering stuff. And, I know it's hard to, admit this, but, I cried, I teared up writing my resignation letter, but it was a weird point in my life. And it was a decision that, at the time it was the best decision that I could make. With a lot of, my wife Ashley was supportive either way. She just wanted me to make the decision that I wanted to make, and she was going to support me either way, and that was the decision that I made, and I lived with it. I told myself, at the time there was a policy that was basically like, if you resign in good standing, you have 18 or 24 months or whatever, and you can basically turn around and walk back in and get your job back. And I kind of used that as a crutch for making my decision. But the other crutch that I used was, I could always still volunteer, which is true because I do, and I still enjoy it. But, I got into the fire service because I liked riding fire trucks. And, if I could make a lot more money and still ride fire trucks, why wouldn't I do that? So, yeah, that was when I left, right before COVID.
Perfect timing, bro.
Was it? I don't know, man. I heard, they were raking in some cash during COVID with emergency pay and all that.
2020, the overtime was ridiculous. Like it felt illegal, the amount of overtime we were making. But when things just kind of went back to the quote unquote new normal, and then all the systems were overwhelmed, EMS was overwhelmed, the hospitals were overwhelmed, we haven't recovered. I mean, the hospital's wait times are still through the roof for our units. Like, I can still say that I remember the days of showing up with a patient and bitching when I had to wait for 10 plus minutes for a bed. And now it's in the matter of hours. Like, I just remember the ambos being gone from the firehouse. You're like, oh, well, they just took a bullshit BLS patient, so we'll see them hopefully by dinner time. When you made that decision to leave the career fire service, did you feel that you were walking away from a sort of identity that you had built?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It was, like I said before, I mean, that's what I wanted to do, was to be a career fireman. And it was who I was. It was what I told everyone when I met them. Hey, they're like, hey, what do you do for a living? And I would probably say, hey, I'm a career fireman. It was who I was. And then for a while it was like, hey, I'm an engineer, but I used to be a career fireman. It was hard to let go of that. But
do you still bring that up?
Not so much anymore. I mean, some people ask because of the mustache now. They're like, hey, are you a fireman? Like, no, but I used to be.
Funny story. Yeah, dude, like you gotta be careful, because after, like, I think the statute of limitations might be 10 years. And after that, you're kind of like that varsity football player from high school that peaked back then.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
I mean, we can get into the whole reinventing ourselves and change of identity and just riff on that. And we'd be here for 3 hours.
It was tough for sure, going from, that was who I was to now, I think it was still a good decision for, family life and all that. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but, I couldn't imagine going through what we went through and still being in the career fire service. I mean, that would have been absolutely terrible to do.
What did you grieve when you walked away? What part of you did you feel was dying?
I mean, it was like grieving the whole identity, like, kind of like we talked about, but, for so long that was what I wanted to do. And it was like, hey, I'm going to get this degree, but then I'm going to go be a career fireman, and that was my plan. And it was kind of like grieving that part of my life a little bit. And I mean, not to get too sappy about it, but it was tough to walk away from, for sure.
And you have some time now, it's what, 7 years almost-ish?
Yeah, about.
What's something that you wish you had known better about making that change in life? If you could go back and talk to Josh 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when you were making that decision, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him? Like, hey, bro, you are either blowing this out of proportion or you are not paying attention as you should to this other thing.
I mean, I think if I could go back, looking at, the life that I have now and that my wife and I have built together, it's, I wouldn't want any of that to change. And, I very much like where we are, family wise and all that. So I don't think I would make a different decision knowing what I know now, knowing, how this ends up playing out. I don't know. That's, I don't know what I would tell myself. I think what would you tell yourself?
Just jump, just do it. Because I think I would have to go back to the same decision that led me into the fire service, because I had a similar path as yours. I walked out of school with an expensive 4+ year piece of paper. And I told myself, if I don't do this now, if I don't go into the fire service, into this great adventure, I'm going to look back in my life when I'm in my 70s and 80s and I'm going to regret it. And I don't want that. And similarly, so that was the end of one chapter, right? That was the end of that sort of like educational building up chapter. And getting to the end of the fire service chapter, same thing. You don't want to get stuck in a place that you look back on and say, should have taken the other path. So when that moment came, and for me, it was I literally just woke up one day and I said, I'm done. Like, it's over. Like, I just kind of like knew it in my bones. And I would have told myself to take that seriously a lot sooner than I did.
Yeah.
Talk about Lenny.
I got my Lenny's dad sweatshirt on.
You always wear that thing. Does it still have the mustard stain from the White Rabbit the other day? That was a t-shirt. So. That was a white t-shirt.
No, that was, I don't think I wore this. It was hot as shit that day.
Bold of you to eat some, like, was it pizza? Some super saucy pizza. Yeah.
It was pizza. Yeah.
Let's talk about Lenny.
Lenny still is our daughter. Our first daughter that we had trouble getting pregnant with her for, I don't know, better part of 2 years, maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. We struggled to get pregnant. And we found out we were pregnant with her as we were signing up and going through all the testing and stuff for IVF. This was 2022. And we had her February of 2023. We had her 5 weeks early. She was just under 35 weeks when she was born. And then she was in the NICU for 2 weeks. Came home right before Valentine's Day. And then on Sunday in March, she was perfectly fine. And then she got very sick. And then Thursday of that same week, we were pulling her off life support. And that was an earth-shattering, life-altering event that, it still is. And you're one of the people that actually got to meet her in the hospital before she passed. So that was very, I'll never forget that. All the people who showed up for us, even though we hadn't talked in a little while, before that. You were, as soon as you were there.
She held my finger, dude. Like I still remember that. I'm grateful that we all had the opportunity to share that time with her. And I think it's important as life goes on to realize that with your true friends, you share the good and the bad. It doesn't matter. You just share everything. And I'll still always remember her holding my finger and being in that room with everybody and being like, fucking life, man. This is crazy. This is sad. Just trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, we had so many people show up that they made people that they stopped people signing in. They're like, oh, you're going up to room, whatever it was, just go.
Should tell you something about the impact that you and Ashley have made on people's lives, that so many people literally came out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it was that whole time was a blur. I don't even remember everybody who was there, but I just remember there was always people there in the room, and Lenny, and it was cool that we got to share her with people, even though, everything that happened. But it was, and even at her funeral, guys from Montgomery County I hadn't seen in years at that point, because this was 2023. I left in 2019. Guys I hadn't seen or talked to in years showed up, and I didn't text them or anything. I don't even know how they found out. Maybe something on Facebook, but there was guys there, and it was moving. It really was. The brotherhood still runs deep in that way, but yeah, that was 2023, and I was, it still is a hard time, but and we've come a long way since then. But it always is, that missing piece of your soul that's never going to be there.
You said that you and Ashley made a promise to her that you would make her proud.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, we would talk to her and hold her. It was difficult to hold her, all the stuff she was hooked up to, but we would talk to her, and towards the end we told her all the things that we would want her to know and hear from us. And one of those things was that we wanted to make her proud in everything that we do. And that's still something that I live by to this day. It's still kind of one of those guiding lights. Like, is this thing that I'm going to do, is that going to honor Lenny, or is it going to, tarnish her memory? And, that's kind of been the lighthouse that I've used for a lot of decisions, since her death. Like, I haven't drank since 2023. That was one of the things that I felt that, and Ashley as well, we promised to her that, we'd make her proud. And that was one of the things that we wanted to do, was not drown ourselves after her death. Still haven't touched alcohol since then. And that was, and it's not even hard, it's not even hard to turn it down when I know that I'm turning it down, because I promised my dying daughter that I wasn't going to drink.
You also said that after going through such a loss, the fear of failure and rejection became laughable in comparison.
Yeah. The fear of anything, it just goes away. Like when you going through something like that, your entire worldview just goes out the window. Like everything that you thought was important, it just doesn't matter anymore. Things that you would care about, like you would care that people thought about you, or care about people's opinions of you or what you were doing. Like none of that matters. It just shifts your entire worldview to something else. It's hard to explain unless you've been through something like that. But the fear of failure, of rejection, of anything. That's gone. For a while, it's like the fear of death is gone. It's like nothing matters anymore. It changes some of that worldview changes, after we had our living daughter, Edith. Now there's, some of that changes, but yeah, after your worldview shifts like that, it's hard for it to go back.
What lessons did grief teach you about time? Does it cure? Does it make it worse?
I mean, it tells you that it doesn't matter. Like, time isn't guaranteed, right? Time doesn't matter. Time isn't this thing that you have more of, it's not this thing you have more of for sure. It's kind of like, I don't know I'm trying to think the best way to describe this. With something like this, I mean, time doesn't heal something like this, right? But eventually, you learn to live with it. You learn to live with grief and carry it with you. Not that it's healed or it's gone away, but you just carry it, and it gets a little bit lighter. You get a little bit stronger.